Younger than 25. And welcome to the Midday Show, April 27th, 2022.
What are you, a calendar all of a sudden?
Tips for living longer. You know, I should have had the date on. I don't know why I never put the date on when we first started the show, but it's kind of nice to have the date on.
I've been suggesting it every day.
If we show up on their feed, it's right there. They don't have to guess like what day was this, or I don't know. It's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Thank you.
I would take credit for it if I deserved any.
Tips for living longer. The oldest living person in the world died. We're going to talk about that, but we're also
doesn't that no longer make them the oldest living person?
It doesn't, but they held it for more than 3 years. So we're going to dive into their tips for living longer, as well as some other ones, maybe some comments too of what they've heard. Have you heard of like do this to like?
I've heard lots of stuff.
Life? There you go. You've lived longer than me. You've heard more things.
It's all bunk.
Some people shouldn't live on a golf course. We're going to talk about a country
Some people
club
should.
lawsuit. Some people should. Some people shouldn't. We're going to talk about a country club lawsuit and kind of dive into that as well. Oodles and oodles of money won in this lawsuit, and I don't really know if they earned it or deserved it, to be completely honest. And we're going to talk about Brittney Griner. She's still detained in Russia. The WNBA season around the corner. Talk about just kind of what does it mean, why is she still there, and what does it mean for women's sports.
We also have a Mother's Day contest that we're running here on NorthcentralPa.com. So go to the website and find that. We already have a couple dozen entries.
Yes.
Why is your mom the greatest mom? Whatever. North Central Pennsylvania. We a prize package. You get like a night stay at the Genetti, a gift certificate, gift card. I guess. Do they even have gift certificates anymore? They're all gift cards, right?
Yeah.
You get a gift card to Windows on 4th, which is the restaurant, the Genetti. We also have a gift card to Solar Sun Tanning, which they have like spray tans. They have all kinds of lotions. They have it, and the old traditional solar bed, tanning bed. So there it is. You can find that on our site. Click in. You can tell in why your mom is the greatest. And my mom is the greatest, but she's ineligible. So anyway, you can do that. I think, does it run through tomorrow?
It runs through the week. I believe we're going up to May 1st.
Oh, because this is the first Sunday, so we got 10 days until Mother's Day. So so you got a couple more days, but get on that and do that. And I wanted to plug that before we got too far into it, because I don't want to give like, hey, today's the last day.
No, prizes from the Genetti, prizes from Solar Sun.
Yep.
So be sure to make your mom a winner.
There we go. And I wanted to tell this quick story from yesterday. I hung this over, and this is cute. You know who Ed O'Neill is?
Yeah,
absolutely. He is the Married with Children guy, the Modern Family guy.
I'm one of the only people in my generation that does not remember him from Modern Family. I remember him from
Married with Children. Okay.
Yes.
Well, he's the Jay Pritchett and Al Bundy were his famous. Well, he is, and you may have seen this story. I clickbaited into it, and apparently it's not that new. But he was at a party, and I think the party was for him and somebody else. I'm not sure, but celebrities everywhere, as you can imagine. And so this person comes up to him and starts talking to him. Says, "Hey, how you doing?" And he doesn't know who it is.
Yep.
Have you heard this story?
I've heard this story. We might have varying. I don't want to step on you.
Okay,
so go ahead.
Well, this is the life hack brilliant story, and and we've all had this happen. That someone's talking to us and we have no idea who it is, and then we're pretending. And he said, like in the conversation, it was a female, and she said, like, "Hey, it's been a long time since I've seen you." And then he's like, "Great, I obviously know this person." Sure. They started talking about his career, and then in the middle of it, as we all do when this happens, you don't have to be famous to have this happen. You're like, I know I should know who this is, and I don't know who this is.
Yep.
So the girl gets through, and he's kind of at that point where he's like, did she catch on? Because that's the other thing that we do. We're like, "Hey, dude, how are you?" And we try to smooth it so the other person doesn't realize we don't know who we're talking to. And now he's all second guessing himself. That's not the word. He's uncomfortable with the fact he's like, "I don't think I hit it well enough."
Okay.
So he's like, "I think she knows," or whatever. And it's driving him nuts that he can't figure out who this is, because he really thinks this is not just some schmo at the party, that this person's famous.
Okay.
So he comes up with this plan that he has to go find her again at wherever this is at.
Okay.
And he's going to ask for a picture because he's convinced that this person's famous. Like if you're Ed O'Neill, you don't walk up to a nobody and say, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" But so he goes up to her, finds the girl at the party, says, hey, do you mind if we get a selfie real quick?
Okay.
So she's like, oh, whatever. So takes a selfie, sends it to his daughter.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, can you tell me who this is? And she's like, Dad, it's Taylor Swift.
Okay.
So now he's like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. It's not, I didn't know who Taylor Swift was. Now he needs to find her again.
So he can drop.
So he can drop her name.
Like, hey, Taylor, by the way.
Yeah, if I don't, hey, if you leave again before I see you, it's good to see you again. Good luck and whatever. And he dropped Taylor in it.
Yeah.
And he told this whole story on Ellen.
Okay.
Of how he did it. But so the brilliance of it is to get the picture with her and then send it and get corroboration. But can you just like imagine his daughter at the other end? And obviously his daughter's grown up with a famous guy. Like this is not new to her.
Yeah.
But she's like, Dad, it's Taylor Swift.
I thought you were going to say he took the picture, then turned around and asked somebody at the party.
No, he sent it to his
hey,
daughter.
I'm trying to tag this person in the photo. Like, how do you spell their first
name? But it could be one thing like, oh, that person, yeah, they were in this and they're in that. Right. It's like it's Taylor Swift.
Okay, so you'll absolutely die at this. So this is not the first time Ed O'Neill has had a mishap of this type. He was in 2019. There was a story about Ed O'Neill at the airport. Okay. And you can imagine Ed O'Neill at the airport. Everyone's going to come up. Can I get a picture? Hey, hey, Jay, hey, whatever. So Ed O'Neill's sitting in the airport.
Like when Mike Tyson's on an airplane and everyone wants to talk to him.
So Ed O'Neill's at the airport, 2019. And a young lady comes up and says, can I, hey, Ed, can I take your picture? Can we get a picture together? And he goes, oh, great, no problem. So he's sitting there he doesn't even stand up like in the photo. And you can Google this. It's there. He's literally sitting back and the person kind of sits on the arm and they take the picture. Well, come to find out when he gets off of the plane, it's a picture of him and Britney Spears that is now like trending on Twitter. So Ed O'Neill took this picture with Britney Spears
and had no idea.
No idea that it was Britney Spears at the time that he took the picture. So Ed O'Neill is kind of
awesome
on top of this. So you can find that photo online that went viral on Twitter in 2019. That's the story I thought you were going to tell.
No, this was different.
Your story makes my story better.
They're
and
great.
Vice versa.
And also, obviously, the hot young rocker chicks love Ed O'Neill.
It must be.
They just go out of their way to talk to him.
It must be.
Well, did you ever hear this one? This is obviously before he passed. Eddie Van Halen and Wolfgang Van Halen, who's his son, who's a rock star, were at a Tool concert. They were at a concert. And Eddie, when you remember Eddie from the 70s with the long hair, at the end when he was 65, he had like a Fu Manchu and like short hair. And so he didn't look like the MTV Eddie because he was 30 years older and whatever. But so Wolfgang and Eddie Van Halen are at this concert, and these two guys are there, and they handed Eddie their phone and said, hey, can you get a picture of us with this? So they're standing like their buddies, and they're there like this, and the stage is behind Eddie. So Wolfgang Van Halen pulls out his phone and takes a picture of the picture being taken, and are like, these two kids have no idea who's taking their picture.
That's pretty great.
So then that became popular, trended too, because Eddie Van Halen, they're asking like the greatest rock guitarist of modern era to take their picture, and they have no idea who it is.
Right. They don't want him in the picture. They need him to take the picture. That's pretty great. Oldest living person just recently passed away. You had heard about this before we go.
119 was the number, wasn't it?
119 was the number. She was from Japan. I'm going to pronounce her name Kane Tanaka. So it was Kane. She almost made it to 120, but was the world's longest living person for almost 3 years total. She held the title. She finally passed away in a hospital. There was one other thing. She was born prematurely, which is which is kind of unique.
That's incredible, actually.
Yes. January 2nd, 1903. It was the same year that the Wright brothers first took flight. Yes. So she was born the same year as that as well.
Did you know that, Kitty Hawk?
That's North Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. Is it North Carolina or Ohio?
It's North Carolina.
North Carolina.
You know the names of the Wright brothers?
The what?
Their first names?
Not off the top of my head.
Orville and Wilbur.
Okay. Nice.
So those are names you might want to consider. Orville.
Well, Wilbur you can't do now. I would imagine
Wilbur.
Yeah, I would imagine after that. How many kids do you think were still named Wilbur after the Wilbur Pigs show?
I don't know. Good question.
I would imagine it dropped off significantly, wouldn't you?
Those two had a good run. We'll just say that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. She was 19 when she got married.
Okay.
Which I find that fascinating.
For the first time.
For the first time. Well, really, I would imagine Japanese culture, probably for the only time.
Well, that's true. In 1922.
Yes.
It was really till death do us part.
So she technically could have been married for 100 years if
the guy had held up his end of the bargain.
Yes, which I find that fascinating as well. Like when she got married at 19, there's no way she thought if this smuck keeps living, we're going to be married for 100
And
years.
He's been dead since 1954.
I don't know. It doesn't say when he had passed away. That's a good question as well. Here's another interesting one too. So not only was she premature, she also had 4 children of her own, which that's another fascinating kind of subplot to all this, because usually the more children you have, just the toll of it takes years off of
Are
your
any
life.
of them still alive? Or doesn't it say?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It says she had 4 children.
Okay. Because you would think
tricky.
they're at least, 85.
Yeah, they would definitely be up there. So here were her 2 kind of like tips to being it. She ate a ton of chocolate. Like there were days where all she ate was chocolate. Think about that one for a second. How do you think that would work out for us?
Not well.
Okay, because I've heard stuff about like chocolate and wine. Like you're supposed to have chocolate and wine daily in
moderation.
Yes,
not all day every day.
Not all day, but you are supposed to have like some sort of chocolate and wine every day. Is what a lot of these things say.
It would be interesting if you're talking about like what are the bad, because there's obviously calories and there's not a lot of nutritional value to it, but how bad is that? Those are the things of what bad foods are really that bad. Because I knew when I was growing up, and I don't know if this is true at all because I'm not a wrestler, but I had friends who were wrestlers and the dad who was a little kid wrestling coach. And he's like, really, pizza's not that bad for them to eat as long as they just don't eat the whole pizza.
Sure.
But of things, it's now maybe it was bunk, and maybe 30 years ago the guy didn't know what he was talking about.
Sure.
But
the other one, and you'll get a kick out of this, she loved soda. She had at least 1 soda a day most of her life.
You know why?
Why is that?
Because it's delicious.
It is unbelievably delicious. So those were her 2 secrets, chocolate and soda, she said. Said she loved both, had them every day.
I mean, probably mix in a pack of cigarettes and there you got it. What else is there? Did we have the discussion on the air, off the air? We were talking about the problem with soda is it's just so
good.
Delicious.
That is the number one problem with soda is
it just tastes so good
thing in the world. There was also, she was tapped to carry the Olympic torch in the Olympic Games in Tokyo, but her relatives deemed it too risky due to COVID-19. So she didn't actually get to carry the torch like she was supposed to. And then the other part here, Sarah Knaus of the U.S., that's who she surpassed to become the longest living person. Jean-Louise Calment, a French woman who died in 1997, remains the longest lived person at 122 years and 164 days. That is the on record. There are numerous reports of, I know in India, there's a lot of reports of people who have lived to be like 130, 140, but there's no actual record to
Did
prove
they
it.
carbon date them?
How can you? Well, yeah, you could you carbon date a person?
Once they're dead, you cut them open and count the rings.
No,
just like a tree.
I'm trying to think. What would be the human? DNA, I guess, would be the human version of carbon rings. The oldest living person now is Lucille Randon. She
from Tuscaloosa.
She is a 118-year-old French nun.
Ah,
yes.
All those years of clean living.
Yes. Well, so here's the other kicker too. Randon is the oldest known survivor of COVID-19. She tested positive during the pandemic.
Huh.
Yeah. That's interesting as well.
I wonder if she was ever married.
Well, so this is, I mean, I
and
guess,
then joined the convent, or if she's been a nun for 100 years.
so this, I mean, the sneaky, fascinating thing about this Tanaka lady is not, I mean, don't get me wrong, living to 119 is incredible. It's premature,
Right.
married at 19, four
Four
kids. I mean, there were a lot of factors for her to not make it to 119. Like a French, like this sounds awful. To me, a French nun seems like an ideal candidate.
You would have a shot
to make it to 119.
So then here, that's the question about so the French nun is the leader right now.
She is the world leader.
So there,
let me rephrase that. On paper, she is the world leader right now, because some of these countries, I mean, they might have someone that's 125, but there's no record of it, you know. Right. So right now in India, there's people claiming to be 135, but there's no actual paper trail to show that they're 135.
So if she became a nun, like early in life, because there's people who go through their aspects of life and then join the nunnery.
Sure.
Do we have 118 years of celibacy? Is that what is that what we're saying? Is that possible?
So she is a French nun, and you are asking me, is it possible for someone to be 118 years of celibacy? I would guess most people that joined the nunnery, am I saying that correctly?
Mm-hmm. I think nunnery is right.
I would imagine that in when would she have had to join? 1920-ish?
Yeah.
I would imagine that most people in 1920 that joined the nunnery were virgins.
Well, but that's my point. She didn't have to join in 20. Like she might have got married, had kids, and then decided at 50 she might have become a nun. Because I know that I know a guy whose first wife is now a nun, and she had 3 biological kids. But after they divorced and they had whatever, and then she became a nun later in life. So
I could probably answer this for you.
It's more fun to just speculate, don't you think?
Listen, I totally agree with that. I just thought it would be interesting to look it up. Any other healthy life habits here? I'm going to read a few off to you, and you can just give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down. One of these, have you ever heard of this one? Apparently, people that eat nuts live longer.
I knew that.
You've heard about this before?
The problem with I love peanuts and I like pistachios.
Okay.
Like, I think cashews and almonds, and I think they're nasty.
It says they're nutritional powerhouses rich in protein, fiber, antioxidants, yada, yada, yada.
Yes. I have
all that stuff that soda doesn't have.
Here's my dry roasted peanuts.
Oh, you're gonna live forever. One of the other things too, they say just like eating in moderation. Like eat whatever you want, but just moderate it. That is one of the like major keys that like older people are saying.
As opposed to intermittent fasting, where you fast all day and then eat like a.
Well, fasting's on here actually. Fasting is one of the I don't even know what to call these because they're not. A lot of these aren't like scientifically proven. It's just what older people have said.
Their theories.
Like their theories as to why they've made it this long. But fasting is in fact on here. There is physically active but not exhausted.
Okay.
So you have people that every day were physically active, however, they never exerted themselves to the point of exhaustion. So none of these people were necessarily athletes, but they were people that were doing.
They weren't sedentary.
They weren't sitting still in an office every day either.
How much of it too do you think is just like dumb luck genetics?
Well, how much of it is just dumb luck in the fact that like this person never got hit by a car, like this person never like.
Well, I was thinking
there's
that
so
too.
many factors in everyday life that are just out there trying to just whack you. Like,
yeah, but I mean, when you talk about the difference between someone with high blood pressure and someone who doesn't, someone with high cholesterol and someone who doesn't, I know there are lifestyle aspects that affect those, but a lot of them are dumb luck.
I agree with you that there certainly genetics is a huge part in this. I can't disagree with that at all. I just look at it like, I bet you there are people that would have lived to be 120, but when they were like 35, like they got in a car accident and like that just didn't.
Absolutely.
So like when you talk about like dumb luck, to me, just the dumb luck of never just having something out of your control happen to you
No, I'm with you.
I mean, that's the part of it to me that.
Well, I've seen studies that they say people are going to live longer and longer, and people living to be 100 is going to be much more common.
So I think there was the big thing right now. If you can make it to 2050, that is the year.
Okay.
Doctors, a lot of doctors and different scientists are saying if you can make it to 2050, at that point, there will be so many like regenerative. I think I'm using that word.
I know what you mean.
They're going to know essentially like whether it's blood transfusion, cell transfusion, like all these, they're going to have all these different techniques that essentially like you won't necessarily live forever, but like you can live a healthy lifestyle for 100, 150, 200 years where like you're just living.
Can they keep your brain going?
So I think a big part of that is the cells and the bloods, like transfusion.
Okay.
Like, because there's some stuff they've already done with like the blood transfusion and that is unbelievable. Like, not to get like all conspiracy theory, but like literally taking young blood and just like transfusing it.
You talk about blood and I get queasy.
Really? Just now. Even just talking about it.
What's next?
Okay. So anyway, 2050. At 2050,
I'll be 79.
Okay. So if you're
I got a shot.
If you're a healthy 79-year-old.
So starting today.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to keep going to the gym, which I've been doing well. I went last night.
But don't exhast yourself. Just
Just
be there.
See, you'll see. Like I rode the exercise bike for 20 minutes while I watched a movie, which we'll discuss that movie at another time.
Okay.
But like when you get old, your purpose of lifting is not to hurt yourself. Okay. Like the whole no pain, no gain when you're young. Yeah. When you get old, there's like any pain and I stop because I don't want to hurt myself. But I'm going to add to that lots of chocolate and a soda a day, which I already do. I already do a soda a day, but I try to keep it to one.
Yeah. No, I think the genetic aspect of it is interesting. From what I've gathered, my mom's side a little rougher than my dad's side. My dad's side tends to have longer health longer than my mom's side. So I think it's just genetically like, I don't want to say luck of the draw, but kind of what are you getting? And but it's interesting.
There you
go. Let's move on to here you go. It's a nunnery. It's not a nunnery, it's a convent.
You know, I thought about that. Isn't a nunnery, isn't that a term? I thought nunnery was a term.
Nunnery is the building. Convent is the community that is joined under the vows that take to be a nun. All right, Heather.
You were right. Nunnery's fine.
Looks like Heather's like thought of it. It looks like she's looked into this before.
She's what's his name? Like the guy on PTI that corrects the mistakes. Stat boy. Yeah. Now nunnery's fine. Nunnery is a very acceptable answer.
It's all about quality, not quantity for me. I'd rather have a happy life than just drooling on myself.
Well, but this lady wasn't, I don't think. At 119, I thought she was doing well.
I think at 119, she was doing okay. I mean, obviously she's not like walking around.
Well, she's not at like the prime of her life.
Correct.
But no, I do agree with that too.
I think it's a very fair point because like 60 good years or 90 years where, 40 of them you're.
Well, I told my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who just passed a few years ago, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, she got to, it was almost been 10 years. She either was just turned 89 or was almost 89. I don't remember what exact month she passed away. But I told my mom she was doing really, really well up to like 87.
Okay.
And then like hearing went, and then it was just so. It is like once you've outlived your body's usefulness, then it becomes But she did great for a long time.
See, it's so interesting because a lot of the people in my I've always felt like people. I'm trying to think how to say this without sounding like a complete jerk, but oh well. The people in my
why start today?
The people that were older in my life. I never felt like I lost them when they passed away. I felt like I lost them when mentally they started to lose it. So
correct.
One of my grandmothers passed away during COVID, like the start, like near like the middle of it. And like, this sounds awful, but like, I kind of felt like I had already lost her like 5-6 years prior because mentally, like she just wasn't there. So the irony that I'm bringing up is like, we view this thing as like, can you walk around? Can you help yourself? All this stuff. But like, I don't know, like when I'm that age, if I'm lucky enough to get to that age, I think I like if I have to be pushed around, but I'm mentally there, like I'm mentally like still there, I think I'd take that over physically being around, but mentally starting to lose.
No, I get that. I think one of the shocking things of life is when you've been to funerals that it is, you see lots of laughter and lots of smiles, and where there's a sense of relief.
Sure.
That because we so often say the person's in a better place, and but there's the finality of it and the emotion of it. But I've been to funerals where it was, I don't want to say almost celebratory, but because they were like, yes, it's better now,
Yeah.
So it is that whole discussion is interesting.
Yeah, no, really, really interesting. Not to start a fight here, Vicky. I went to Catholic school, and Convent is the building. So she says, I just looked it up. It can be both the building and the community. So there you go. I still like just nunnery sounds.
Listen,
fun.
This is when you said nunnery, everyone knew what you meant, and I think it's. I don't know. I think it's right.
Let's move on to this story is pretty great. So if you go to SI.com, you can find a story about a family that was awarded $5 million in the lawsuit. Here is let's just do the one paragraph breakdown. Eric and Athena Tenzar took their situation to court, stating that they were under a continuous threat after 651. They had it down to the one.
Not just 650.
You know how I feel about round numbers. Like if they would have said 650, I would have thrown the case out.
Yep.
Like you're just making up this number.
Yep.
651 golf balls have hit their home. They were awarded $4.93 million after the Plymouth County Superior Court determined the country club was at fault for not protecting the home. The couple bought their home, which sits near the 15th hole of the golf course, in April of 2017, paying $750,000 for it. The Tenzars have received some backlash regarding the case, since people should expect to have golf balls hitting their house when they buy a home on a golf course. However, it was the significant number of golf balls hitting their house that helped their case.
Well, there's obviously a design flaw, and yes, there you see both sides of it. Like when you look at it,
I do not, but continue.
When you buy it there, you understand the risk, but at the same point, I think part of it is what they had said. They had tried to talk to the golf course.
Okay.
Because there are certainly ways to alter it. You can move tee boxes, you can move angles, you can move greens. Now it costs money, but apparently the golf course was like, we don't have to.
Right.
And the court deemed that they did. Now I'm sure the course will appeal it, and whether they end up actually cashing in $5 million, who knows?
Right.
But I mean, I do see both sides. I'm not really sure what side I'm on, because they bought the house as it existed with the golf course as it existed.
I would feel worse for the family if they had already owned the house.
And then the golf course showed up.
And then the golf course showed up, or the golf course adjusted the hole or did something. I struggle. The other thing I struggle with is the number. 5 million is absurd. It's not, there's no way it was worth $5 million. Like there wasn't $5 million in damage. There wasn't $5 million in emotional damage. There wasn't nothing. None of this was worth $5 million. No way.
Well,
I refuse to believe that.
And I don't disagree. How does the money get awarded? Is it a judge, or is it a jury?
So right now, all it says it was a judge. So
Okay.
right now it's because it wasn't by a jury. It was, I just read it in that thing. It was the Plymouth County Superior Court determined. So not
what
a jury.
state was this in?
It's a good question. Massachusetts.
Okay. So in Plymouth, Plymouth Rock. That's where the Rock is. So in Massachusetts, if you have any place where a house on a golf course is $750,000, and this is a country club, and I think the judge was just kind of like, you rich people just can't do whatever you want. Like these people wanted to work with you. You need to do something. You said.
So here's my other thing too, because I understand the their lawyer did a good job because he said it was apparent to anyone that the house was going to be struck. However, they thought they were buying a golf course view property. They ended up buying a golf course and play property. But this is the part. They're complaining that the golf course didn't do anything about it, right? Like they could have, whether it was planting vegetation or putting up or whatever. But like, you just bought a house for $750,000. You can't afford to put up vegetation. Like, you can't afford to put up a fence. Like, you're just so helpless. You're so helpless in all of this that you couldn't have put in a retaining wall.
They couldn't put in the fence wasn't high enough because there are limitations. I did read that part.
Okay, that's not okay.
They're only allowed to put a fence so high. Okay. Their aspect was during the summer we couldn't put our kids outside.
Okay.
Because of so for however many months out of the year we couldn't use our yard. If it was warm enough to golf,
is that $5 million?
I don't know. I think it was just a point.
Not feeling safe enough to take your kids outside in your own backyard is annoying. I don't think it's $5 million annoying.
I think it was a point to the golf course which is full of rich members and they're like, it needs to be something that affects you. It can't be a $50,000 fine because you'll just have some member write a $50,000 check and laugh it off.
Okay.
So that's my guess. If this is a public course, I think it's different, but maybe I'm totally wrong.
No, I think I think you're bringing valid points. This is one of those where I don't think I'm on the fence about it. I think I think there's people where show me the effort you put in to handle it yourself. I like everything.
But they said they tried to work with the golf course, and the golf course told them to go pound sand.
But like, how did they tell the golf course? Like, show me that you took action to try to like make this bed. Did you plant some trees in your backyard? Like, did you look into it before you brought the property? Like, did you just walk out on the property?
Well, that's
and go, this
the
looks
point.
Great. Like,
the point of it is,
did you do your homework to know this was going to happen?
Like, who said it was? They thought it was a golf course view and it was golf course in play. Who told them that? Because the golf course is right there, and if it's you can just tell which houses are reachable and which houses aren't. Sure. And I don't. The other aspect, the argument that you can make is if you don't like it, move.
Yeah,
that's true. And if they would have tried to sell it and no one would buy it, then they look like idiots because they bought it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if no one else would buy it and you bought it, then you're the fool. So I don't know, but I did read that story too, and they got rich. I mean, listen, I would let my house get pelleted with 651 golf balls for $5 million.
I love the 650.
651.
The ones.
There's one more.
The one is crucial though, because if you say 650,
it makes it sound like you didn't make it up.
It doesn't sound real anymore if you say 650. There was one other piece of this that I found. So they had images shared of multiple broken windows in their home. They also had detailed instances in which a golf ball came through the window, scaring the couple's young daughter. They filed a police report after that incident. What would you even file on a police report?
That I don't know. And it might, just because they filed a police report doesn't mean that
a crime happened. Yeah, that's something.
But like, I can see that.
What do you think? Like domestic disturbance? Like, what could you? I'm trying to think of what you could legally file there, and I don't know what you would say.
I mean, there would be a level of destruction of
property.
Like if you go hit a baseball out of your front yard and it smashes the neighbor's window, that's.
Yeah, but does the neighbor live like across from Wrigley? I guess is like the point here.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a very good question.
Interesting. I'm on the golf course's side. You seem to be more towards the family side.
I can see both. I can see both sides. I'm surprised they won this much.
You've also
I'm really
had
surprised.
Kids before. I've never been in a scenario where like I'm sitting in like a place and like something drastic happens and my kid starts crying.
But like as a realtor, I've shown lots of houses where people love the house, but across the street is, a junkyard or a garage or a dilapidated building, and you're just like, listen, that's not going anywhere.
Right.
So if you're gonna hate that every time you see it, then you can't buy this house. Right. If you don't care because you love the house so much, then great. But if you're afraid, like I can't believe it. Seems to me their realtor was just looking to get a sale, and a $750,000 sale is a nice sale, and the realtor is going to make some money.
Sure.
To be like, listen, you're going to have golf balls in your yard all the time, and if you know nothing about golf to be able to see how far it is and where the green is and where the tee box is, then they could have asked someone. But it should have been clear to anyone with any knowledge of golf that there's going to be golf balls in your yard all the time.
Have you ever, like, you've seen a golf course near a highway, right? I mean, there must be some golf courses where dozens of cars get like nicked by a golf ball like throughout the year. Like there just must be.
Do you ever think that when you're going down through Shamokin Dam in Selinsgrove, where the one hole?
Oh yeah, is right there, and it's like right past.
If someone missed clubs, you would think.
So like there must be courses across the country where that's the case. Like dozens of cars get hit or whatever. But see, like I don't think a car or a highway would have an argument against the country club because their players keep shooting long. Like I do know what you're saying. So I guess my thing is like it's not so much that like I think this family's awful and horrible and like how dare they. I guess like I'm struggling to see necessarily that the golf course is the responsible party. Like you have these golfers come on, they miss a shot. And if they miss, like if the golfers paying to use your course are bad, like I don't know, like I just don't see how that's the course's responsibility.
And we'll see how it holds up because again, these things get appealed, and
unless their house is like on the course, like it is like here's the green and it's like right there. Like then these golfers are just completely missing their shots, and I don't think that's the course's.
Well, I have played on a
liability.
Course. I mean, you've played on golf courses where the houses are around it. Like the Williamsport Country Club is like that. There's a golf course, there's houses around it.
Absolutely.
I've played on courses that it almost looks like the housing development was built and then they tried to squeeze this golf course in.
Yeah.
Where instead of trees on each side, you have houses on each side. And so some courses are much more dangerous for the houses than others. And you'd have to see this one. Since it's in Plymouth, Massachusetts, I'm guessing it's not new.
I would hope not.
But
this would be after this whole conversation, can a golf course be held responsible for crappy golfers? That would be my question. Because unless this house is sitting in the middle of the green, like you have golfers that are missing shots.
There are a lot of very good golfers who have yanked one into a house.
I agree. Right. So can a golf course be responsible for crappy golf shots?
It's fair. Apparently,
and I didn't know that until
I
today.
think it all comes down to the level of cooperation because the couple said the golf course stopped responding to us.
They could have worked with them better.
Who knows? Now maybe the people kept whining, and every day they called. They're like, we had 7 more, we had 8 more, and they stopped taking their calls because they're like, you bought who knows? Right. But no, I do understand why the golf course feels like they might not have done anything wrong. I don't debate that at all.
I kind of lean.
Yeah.
Brittney Griner still detained in Russia. Just quickly, WNBA season starts next week. There was somebody, I believe by the last name of Reed, was exchanged. They were a prisoner in Russia. A U.S. Marine, Trevor Reed, was exchanged for a convicted Russian drug trafficker. It's now being brought up that as great as it is that Trevor Reed is coming home, there is still also another ex-Marine and Brittney Griner that are still detained in Russia, as well as I'm sure several others. So the Brittney Griner discussion, there's, to me, and the thing that I brought up to you before the show, I feel like this is getting attached to other causes, other issues, and I don't think there's any correlation to it at all. One of them right now is women's sports, women's equality, women's equal pay. Brittney Griner still in Russia. And I just don't, personally, I don't see the correlation between the two. Please try to convince me otherwise.
Well, no, what people are saying is most, if not all, of the WNBA players, even the superstars, the best of the best, go play in Europe in the offseason, somewhere, whether it's in Russia, whether it's in, because they make a lot of money over there. They might even make more over there than they do here. Do you know?
I know like the good ones. So like the Stellar, the Tarasis, the Sue Birds, they made more money overseas. Now, like Does your average? I don't know.
Okay.
But your stars make more over there.
But so to say, like, Brittney Griner's not the exception to the rule. They all go over there and play.
Yep.
And so what I'm sure people are saying is, if the WNBA paid them more, then they wouldn't have to go to Russia and play, and none of this would have ever happened.
Correct.
Which is true, but the WNBA is a business, and they pay off TV ratings and attendance and ticket sales and things like that.
Right.
And listen, Brittney Griner doesn't have to go play. I'm sure she makes enough. I'm sure she makes six figures in the WNBA.
She makes a living. She makes a living that most Americans are jealous of.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that means she should be detained in Russia because she makes a living most Americans. But there's the part of the WNBA that I feel like most people miss out on is if you just do it based off of percentages. So if you look at how much the NBA makes as a company and what percentage of that goes to a player, and you do the same for the WNBA players get paid more percentage-wise than NBA players.
Well, does it? It used
because
to be.
It's the only way to make sure WNBA players get a reasonable wage. If you gave them the same percentage as an NBA player, the wage would be almost nothing.
Well, right. And the WNBA is owned by the NBA, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that the WNBA loses money every year?
Yes, but there's some other parts to that. Like, the NBA makes money because of their partnerships and everything else. But if you just looked at the NBA as just what it does in that, technically the NBA loses money too. Did I make sense saying that? If you just look at the nuts and bolts of the NBA, it technically loses money. It gets swallowed up by all the endorsements and all of the sponsorships. But the actual company itself loses money.
But my point is, from a pure sports and business, like women's pro tennis survives very nicely on its own.
Yeah.
The WNBA does not.
No.
And the WNBA is kept afloat. It's basically goodwill of the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And the NBA was around first, and they should have a women's league. So, okay, we have a women's league, and it's like, it is basically goodwill, community outreach. So yeah, that would be a tough argument for people to make in the defense of, in the condemnation of the NBA in the defense of Brittney Griner, that all they should do is just pay these girls more, and then they wouldn't have to go to Europe. That's a tough argument to make.
Yes. The other one that's also being thrown in there as well is that because she is a celebrity, we would have went and got other celebrities as well. So I'm curious on.
I mean, that's speculative. I'm sure it's
Brittney
true to a degree.
Brittney Griner's was one of the best 5 players in the WNBA. So the argument is, if one of the best 5 from the NFL, if one of the best 5 from the NBA, if one of the best 5 singers, if one of the best 5 actors, if one of the best 5 or 10 people in their profession were detained in Russia right now, would they be home already?
That's a fair question.
I don't know how I feel about that one.
Well, no one knows. I mean, It is pure speculation, but would they have tried harder?
Maybe, possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's the one that I don't even know necessarily if it's about being right or wrong. It's the one where I struggle to put it into context, because I don't know what I don't know what a Zion Williamson being locked up in Russia would look like. Like, I don't know how society would react, what the outcry would actually be, because there's the other part of it too. There are aspects to this where if a man were detained in Russia right now, the sympathy is far less than it is for a woman. So
Is it?
You don't think so?
I think if it was, I think to the degree of celebrity, like I'm thinking right now, you said one of the top 5 players. If you take the top 5 NFL quarterbacks, if one of the top 5 NFL quarterbacks was detained in Russia, I think there would be a lot of outrage.
There's a difference between outrage and sympathy.
That's fair. That is a fair point.
Like a male athlete would, I think, if a male athlete did what Brittney Griner did, I think,
what did she do?
She had an illegal substance. I believe, in her bag.
Okay.
So I believe she had an herb in her bag that she was not supposed to have. I can
Okay.
look up the exact, but I think I'm close enough ballpark there. Like,
Okay.
which, listen, at the end of the day, like, do I think she should be detained in Russia? Absolutely not. But if a top 5 quarterback had done the same thing and was detained in Russia, I think there would have been a lot more of, what an idiot. Why did he do that? Why would he even have that in his bag?
Well, and she's played in Russia a bunch of years,
yes,
hasn't she?
So it's not like she's naive to like what's
unfamiliar.
allowed, what's not allowed.
Yeah.
So listen, there were some people that said that. Like, there were some Brittney Griner detractors of kind of like, well, why would she do that? Like, what was she doing? I'm saying, like, a male athlete, I feel like, would have got pummeled for it. Like an NBA player would have gotten destroyed if they would have done that.
Maybe. And maybe. So if this is a white NFL quarterback, you think we handle it differently as a country?
Unfortunately, yes. But I think, like, if they would have done the same thing, I think there's a lot of an NFL quarterback is unique because of what they get paid and what they mean to society, for better and for worse.
That is true.
The NFL quarterback aspect of it is, but again, like, it's that idea of like, you can make the argument Brittney Griner is one of the best 5 people at her profession, and so what, should there be a difference, and is she being treated differently? And I do think she is. There's certainly less of an outrage because it's Brittney Griner. I just think there's also aspects where, like, a lot of the things that I'm reading about, they're leaving out the part where, like, she, like, messed up. Like, you can't, like, she made a fatal mistake, like, to get detained.
Fatal's not the right
Sorry,
word,
what's the word I'm looking for?
I know what you mean.
But, like, she made a mistake where, like, if you get caught, like,
she broke a law. She broke a
yes, and so again, like, if Zion Williamson did the same thing,
no,
I mean, he
I
would
am
have
with
gotten
you.
Pummeled in social media and in the papers.
But would we have tried harder to get him out?
That's a fair question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Because I'm sure right now Brittney Griner is saying, I don't really care how much you pummel me in the papers.
Just
get me out.
Of here. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the other issue too, though. Like, I think there's, like, we brought home a Marine today.
Right.
Like, if you're weighing this stuff out, like, there's still another, like, there's a very, I'm sure there's more than one more.
Right.
But there is another, like, high-profile Marine that is still over there today.
Right.
And so, like, let's imagine Brittney Griner came home today.
And the
Marines
were still.
Nah,
that's a valid point,
and so
too.
it's like, how do you...
Did you ever see Bridge of Spies?
No.
With Tom Hanks?
No.
I would loan it to you, but
A,
you'd never give it back, and B, you can't watch it.
What's it streaming on? I'll just look up what it's streaming.
It's pretty interesting. It's not the greatest movie ever, but it's about prisoner exchange with Russia.
Okay.
From the 50s?
Yeah.
60s? I don't know. But it's enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very true to the story. But again, it's not. I think I've watched it twice. It's not the best movie you'll ever see, but you won't. When it's over, you won't feel like you wasted your time.
No, I can watch that. Anything else about Brittney Griner?
Nope.
We'll see where it goes from here, because I think today is like, today wasn't a tipping point, but I think as people, if there's more exchanges and as the war goes on and things get a little more hairy, it'll be. And then here's the other part too. Right now, it was out of season. Like, to most Americans, women's basketball is on the back burner year round, but it's especially on the back burner right now.
Right.
Now that the WNBA season is going to start.
And she's not there.
Is it just kind of like in your face? Now it's kind of there every day. And does that change kind of the projection and how they decide to handle it? Afterthoughts, do you have any? No. Wow. Speechless.
I don't really.
Okay.
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
That's all right. We dove in. That was good.
They're important.
What, your afterthoughts? Usually you have like a thing or two, but not today. We dove into it pretty good.
That was good.
All right.
Highly intellectual today.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
That's it. See you. Oh, I won't be here tomorrow. Sorry.
Yeah, way to go. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina, and we will see you later this week.